The thing I'm really thinking about today are single file components. I've been working with, Angular, React, Vue, Svelte, lit-html, and probably some others I've forgotten about. I've built a little bit with a couple of those and a lot with others. And the thing that really stands out to me today anyway is with most of those tools, by default, you're going to get a single file component. Single file component is super convenient for keeping things tidy, super convenient if you have a lot of components. So as your app starts to sprawl, you get this big benefit by only stacking up one file per component. I've really seen I've seen my Angular apps start to get a little bit messy because of the default you get with Angular CLI, which are these multi-file components. And with Angular, really for idealized tree shaking, you often need to make a module, which is another file, for every few components. So I would say the average Angular component ends up having one directory plus 3 files, maybe a 4th file, depending on whether you have a component level test, and then a fraction, maybe let's call it 0.3 of a module file. So that's 4 or 5 entries, 4, 5, 6 entries in the file system, 4, 5, 6 entries in a scrolling tree of files for every component. If you have 2 or 3 components in an example, this is a little bit annoying, just a little bit more to navigate through. But if you have an application that has thousands of components, this gets pretty overwhelming. So I'm kind of hoping that over time we start to see that get walked back. Maybe we'll start to see, well, maybe if not a change default, maybe we'll start to see practice evolve more toward single file components in Angular. As far as I can tell, that now works decently well in the IDE. You get reasonably good IDE support for a template. There's no downside to it I really know of technically. I would say that if you say, oh, but my components are complex, and so spreading them out across multiple files helps manage the complexity of my component, I would counter that with, maybe you're not making enough components. Maybe you should have few enough components in your system small enough components in your system that the complexity of each component is such that it fits in a single file without a huge amount of scrolling. Now, I know that's not always possible, so think, for example, I think in a typical application, you might find that 80% of your components are pretty comfortable as a single file, not a whole lot of content. Maybe 20% have a lot of complexity. So for example, some of the more complex reusable library type components in the Angular CDK, some of those have a fair amount of complexity just because they're dealing with some pretty hard problems. Those might be worse if they were done as a single file. So I don't know that it's always the right answer, but I think it's the right default answer. So I would encourage, if you haven't already tried taking a single file component approach in Angular, just give it a shot and see where you end up. So thanks for watching my short technical blurb here, not worthy of a full tech talk. Watch next time. Bye-bye.